Welcome back to the OG Rivals podcast. I am one of your hosts, Miles Teddick, the Packer fan on this podcast, and I am joined by none other, once again, Sir Miguel Prado. We're back.
Oh, it feels,
How you doing, sir?
It feels good to be back, Miles.
Yes.
It feels good to be back.
Yeah, man, things are different since last time we talked.
The world is different. Obviously, the Chicago Bears, they look very different, albeit on paper with some of the new faces in town. To level set here, last time you and I hopped on for a little OGR action, we were talking about the potential trade for that number one pick. We were talking about what those packages and scenarios might look like. Boy, now we get to talk about what might actually happen in the draft because of that move that was made with that number one pick being moved. But also a lot going on with some 12 and New York Jets connection, right? Like so much has happened there. We just have a lot to talk about.
Dude, the similarities to the Favre situation, and it's just anybody who hasn't listened to previous episodes, we've talked about it several times, and tied several things to it. So go back, catch up. We'll probably hit it again here. The similarities are crazy. Like, we're going to have to start talking about simulation theory here, because there is actually potential that Aaron Rodgers not only is going to go to New York to play for the Jets, just like Favre did after all these other things, this man actually might wear number 4.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine a reality where Aaron Rodgers wears number 4 for the New York Jets after getting traded away from the Green Bay Packers at the end of his career, after saying, I will not do this the same way that Favre did, even though I'm doing it the same way that Favre did?
Well, I mean,
like, man,
what
this
if,
is crazy.
What if the compensation for that trade is the same? Because it looks like the number 13 draft pick that was on the table, or maybe it was never on the table, but was definitely one of the demands from Green Bay's side, is
it was in the conversation.
It's in the conversation, right? And it's not looking like that's going to happen. So what if it's comparable to the Favre compensation? You know what?
We'll get there.
Yeah, we're going to get there tonight.
We're going to get there.
Pretty excited to bring this show to the OGs. They're out there, and you know we love them. So,
absolutely.
You know what, Miles?
Welcome back, OGs.
I'm a little excited, but I know what I'm doing after you and I wrap up this incredible conversation. Is I'm going to go and get some Life Leaf sleep gummies, and that's going to be my nightcap tonight.
Oh, my man, you're singing my song right there. I appreciate that, and you're going to have sweet dreams. I can attest to that, because that is what the product is called, Sweet Dreams Gummies. We call them that for a reason, because they give you sweet dreams. You sleep well, you sleep strong, and you wake up feeling good. You wake up feeling clear and ready to take on your day. If you didn't catch it already, this episode is brought to you by Life Leaf Remedies. We want to help y'all feel better today. We're making effective natural remedies for things like sleep, immune support, and other areas where you're looking for relief in your life, because life is hard, y'all. Get a helmet. We're providing them right now, figuratively. So check us out at lifeleafremedies.com to learn more about the natural remedies we're making. We're certainly making immune armor. Speaking of helmets, I have 2 daughters that are constantly trying to get me sick, and I have my immune armor on, so it does not work. I am here. I'm fighting every day, even when they're not. So I'm sure there's several of you that can relate to that. We cannot afford off days, so don't take them. Armor up, y'all. Check us out, lifeleafremedies.com, and feel better today. And if y'all want to help us, you OGs out there want to help us feel better today, there's something you could do for us. What is that, sir?
Yeah, if you are an OG and you enjoy the OG Rivals podcast, please don't forget to spike that like button, leave us a comment, subscribe, and talk about us at your next tailgate. Boy, it feels good to be back, Miles.
Man, I love it. Dude, I've been looking forward to this. There have been so many battles on Packers Twitter where I'm like, we just need to air this out. We need to get this out there into lazy takes. We need to have a section of your side of the street, get these streets cleaned up. Y'all, the civil wars that are happening on Twitter are unnecessary. We need to stop this, and we're gonna clean it up tonight.
Tell me
But
more.
yeah, man.
Tell me more about Packers Twitter imploding right now.
Oh, well, I mean, there's the obvious factions, but let's, the one that I prefer to call out the most are the ones who were not around for the Favre transition to Rodgers, because you just don't have the perspective of having this guy that people have no faith in replacing a Hall of Famer. Surely this guy could not be a Hall of Famer. Well, it turns out he's a Hall of Famer. So, like we've seen this happen before. Let the man cook. Let's chill. Let's see how this goes. Everything right now is so eerily similar to that Favre transition to Rodgers. We might as well just assume we've got another Hall of Famer on our hands, because everything else has been the same in these situations. So I don't know what else to tell y'all. Of course, I'm being a little bit tongue-in-cheek there, but the point is things are kind of weird. The way this is all unfolding, really what we need to be able to do is a little bit of both sides, right? Like there's the side that's hanging on to Rodgers because he's the only quarterback they've ever known, and he's a Hall of Famer. He's done so much, 4-time MVP. Salute to you, sir. Respect. You won a Super Bowl while I was in the peak of my college career. Thank you for that. Like that has got to be one of the coolest times your team can win a Super Bowl. And I was in Wisconsin for it. Shout out UWO, Hail Titans. What an experience. Aaron Rodgers has been part of like some of the biggest highlights of my Packer fandom. So I have zero hate and disrespect for anything that he has done.
Is this a goodbye?
For
what is it?
Yes,
what is
absolutely. Yes. No, I need to preface all of this because it's going to get heated later.
Is this goodbye?
I can't have anybody coming back and be like, this guy's just a Rodgers hater. No. Let's be clear. Like Aaron Rodgers is at the core of my Packers fandom. But it's a Packers fandom. It is not a Rodgers fandom. And before that, it was a Packers fandom. It was not a Favre fandom. So all you nerds who went out and got purple Favre jerseys, you are Favre fans. You are not Packer fans. We're just going to lay that out real quick. And everybody who goes out, and again, I said a purple jersey. You go off and support Favre when he was with the Jets. That's cool. I was rooting for him then. And I have gone on record and said, if Aaron Rodgers goes off and wins a Super Bowl with the Jets, I will be happy for him. I will not be bitter about that. I will not be like, oh, we let go of him too soon. We got 18 years of this guy, 4 MVPs, a Super Bowl championship. We got great football out of this guy. You can't just be butthurt because he went off and won a Super Bowl with somebody else. It just doesn't work that way. Now, if he goes off and plays for the Vikings, that's it.
Well, that's not
like I'm done. I'm done.
That's not.
I'm done.
Well,
but we're not getting there yet. We're not going there yet. We got time for this to play off. He's got to at least play for the Jets for one season. But anyway, no. All of that to say, like total respect for everything Rodgers was. This is a total goodbye.
Well,
because
is it though?
Gute laid it out.
See,
absolutely, 100%.
Because they're don't want this to be a lazy take, right? But leverage is real in this hypothetical deal.
No. Now listen, hear me out. This is not a final goodbye, because I am 100% certain that the Jets and Packers will get a trade done. I am like probably 95% certain that'll happen.
Right,
but I am 100%
so let's talk
certain.
about that 5% real quick. That 5% is that a deal hasn't been done yet, that now there are, you can say, public dialogue, right, between GM, head coach, not Favre,
Scott and Ugly,
Rodgers himself,
right,
and it has gotten ugly, and I would say that entire market has been reset, right? I think even today. I think it might have been NFL Network just saw the potential discussion of what that would look like, and it could potentially be a 2 this year, a 2 next year. That could potentially be a 1 depending on how Aaron Rodgers does with New York, right? In that hypothetical first year 2023 NFL season, and that is a far cry from what I believe Green Bay wants, right? And it's at that point, what happens? Do the Jets eventually just move on, right? Because there's the Lamar
So
Jacksons of the world sitting right there. Also, what do you do?
well, they also said that they're out on him. I mean, they flat out. I don't know if it was the owner or the GM. Flat out said no, that it would be disingenuous to negotiate a deal because we have a plan at quarterback and we're going to stick with it. Which is obviously alluding to the trade for Rodgers because they've let every other quarterback go. I mean, really, it's if it's not Lamar Jackson, it's what, a trade for Stafford maybe. If you could pull that off, I don't know if the Rams
Yeah,
are even open to that, but.
but when you look
Point
at
is,
it,
hang on. Point is, you're asking about the 5%, right?
yeah,
Asking about the like, what if the trade doesn't happen, right?
yeah.
So my take is, and this is based off of Gute's most recent comments, where he basically was like, "Yeah, we tried to talk to Rodgers. He flat out ignored us, so I had to do my job, and we're moving on." So to me, that's a guy that says, no, like our quarterback is number 10. If we don't get anything for number 12, then he's under contract. He's certainly welcome to come back, but everybody and their brother knows, and if anybody wants to argue otherwise, there's no way Aaron Rodgers comes back and sits at number 2. It's just not going to happen. His ego would not let that happen. And he's even said, things kind of alluding to that, right? Like, I'm not coming back just to sit. Like, he's coming back to be a Super Bowl quarterback, or believing that he has a chance to be. And if it's not that, he's not coming back at all. And that's where I think that he would retire, and I think the Packers would be fine with that. I
So
mean, they don't have any choice at that point.
let's call it a divorce, right? Because and that's and
Yeah.
that,
Oh
but
yeah.
because of that scenario, the first scenario that you ran through, which was, tens the quarterback no matter what. Aaron Rodgers, no way in hell is he,
He's not coming
coming
back.
off the bench at number 2, right? So
No way.
with that scenario, everybody in the NFL that's a GM, their front office knows this.
Sure.
So when we talk about leverage, that's when you're like, okay, well, that let the Packers figure that out, and you don't budge about above a 4 or a 3. Right? And that's why I'm saying is the leverage in that deal is what's his market is plummeting because, and I don't mean plummeting in that there's not a market for Aaron Rodgers. What I mean is the price for Aaron Rodgers is plummeting because everybody knows that that's going on in Green Bay.
Yeah, but my counter to that is, if you wait it out, the Packers have what they want, which is 10 playing quarterback. They already agreed to this contract. So it's not like they have any kind of panic button being smashed because they didn't get any kind of return for Rodgers. And he's under contract. So if he retires, you still have his rights for the next 2 seasons, three seasons. It's this season and plus 2. So
That's good.
you'd still have to trade him. I mean, it's, like, so I think really the right answer here is no, nobody has all of the leverage. Obviously, the Packers want more than what the Jets want to give up. I think that's what we're seeing. But what you have to really look at is the other side. Like, what if the Jets don't get Aaron Rodgers? Then what? Like, what's their plan? Because their plan right now is not good.
Well,
And that's, I like the Packers plan if this doesn't work versus the Jets plan if this doesn't work.
that's probably the most Packer fan statement you've made tonight, though.
Well, but we have the starting quarterback we want. The Jets don't.
Right, but the Jets, and I understand they've come out publicly and said no to Lamar. I would say I would leave that on the table as a possibility. I would also,
It's got to be, right?
I mean,
It has to be.
without getting
He's
into the rabbit
26
hole
MVP.
of the guaranteed
Yeah,
money,
yeah, that's its own
without
rabbit
getting
hole.
into the rabbit hole of the representation that isn't authorized by the NFL's Player Association, right? Like all of these, like just rabbit holes with the Lamar situation. There's still, I think the Jets still have other possibilities. They're at 13. We know historically there's always a quarterback that falls, right? So they would be in a
Sure.
position to maybe trade up. And it would probably at that point be a trade that wouldn't be mortgaging the farm, right? Because you'd probably be moving into the bottom, 10, 11 range, and you're already at 13 to get one of those quarterbacks that fall. And not to
But
just
does
branch
that
out to
win
every
you a Super Bowl
possibility that
next season? Because that's what they're saying right now. They're saying right now
yeah,
we need to win a Super Bowl next season. That's why they're going after Aaron Rodgers, right?
right. But they also, I think, are, while they're going after Aaron Rodgers, they know that there's no urgency on their end to pull that trigger because they know that the relationship
Yeah.
with Green Bay is so fractured. So that price, to me, right, this is just my opinion, that price just continues to that at that point lose its leverage from being a second rounder and a future second rounder. The more time that passes, I think the lower that price will be. All I'm saying is don't be shocked if it is a third rounder. Don't be shocked if it is a fourth rounder, because at that point you're getting a return as an organization, regardless, knowing that that relationship is over.
Yeah, but again, I see this. To me, this leverage is very similar to the leverage that the Packers had back in 2021 when Adam Schefter started all these stupid rumors. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is done in Green Bay. He'll never play there again. Guy is such a clown. The point was, even if that was true in that offseason, and this is what I think you and I talked about this then. Even if it was true that I'm done in Green Bay, I'm not going to play football there again, he was under contract for 2 more seasons at that point. And that's where it's like, fine, if you're done, you retire. That's your option. We don't have to trade you. And they said very clearly that they would not trade him at that point. And so it's basically the same situation, but it's more expensive to the Packers this time. But again, that's not some kind of panic button. Like that's kind of inconvenient for them next season, right? But it's not like they have to go off and cut a bunch of people from this current roster to make camp, right? Like you'll go in with less than what you want to. Maybe there's like a couple free agents you can't go get now, but you'll get your draft class. You've already got guys under contract on your team that you want, including your quarterback. So, it's the Packers have very similar leverage here. They have Aaron Rodgers' rights. So if a team wants him, they have to trade for him. It's not like, well, all right, they don't get it done, now they have to cut him. That's different. Like if you have to cut a guy, all right, well then eventually you don't have to give up anything for him. The only reason you would trade at that point is to guarantee you're the one who gets him. But that's not the case here. He's under contract. So even if it's not the Jets, and I think what really is going to happen in the game of chicken that's being played is there's media chirping, which will of course come from front offices leaking stuff to try to influence things. But I think what you pointed out is the draft. So what's probably going to happen is it'll go right up to the draft. The Jets will see how the draft falls. And if there's not somebody there at that quarterback or at that spot, or there's not an opportunity to get a quarterback that they consider to be a guy that they want to build around there, then now the price for Aaron Rodgers starts to go up real fast, because now he's your last option this season. You either use a draft pick on that quarterback or you don't. You use it on something else. And the only option is to trade for Rodgers, trade for Lamar Jackson, trade for Matt Stafford. Is Baker Mayfield out there?
No, Baker's in Tampa.
Oh, that's right. He went to Tampa.
Yeah.
So he's out of there. The options
In
after
nobody's
this
shadow,
draft.
not feeling anybody's shoes down there.
Right? Look at that guy. He just slipped into a beautiful little situation for him.
Kidding.
But so I think that to me it's a game of chicken. So it depends on who needs what first, right? And so I think really, and we talk about the scenarios. Now let's go into what could they get. I don't think that they will get some big haul. I think and let's talk about this as the price for a Super Bowl next season. So we saw the Rams do that, right? All right, here's what we believe we need to win a Super Bowl next season and what the price that we believe is worth paying when they traded for Matt Stafford. And that's what happened, right? They went off and they won a Super Bowl. So it worked. But now they've even said this offseason they're paying the price for it. So it all comes down to what are these guys willing to pay if they believe that next season is the season that they can win a Super Bowl and Aaron Rodgers is the guy that can deliver that for him, i.e. Tom Brady for the Bucs, right? Again, Matt Stafford for the Rams. That price, I think, changes each offseason based on these circumstances that we're talking about here. Who's available? Is there somebody in this draft, and I don't think there is, that you believe can win you a Super Bowl next season? Is there like an Andrew Luck type guy? I don't think there is. I think that this draft, there's talent, but it needs to be developed, all of them. We could be wrong.
They don't have the assets to strike, even if you want to, like get nitty gritty and start dissecting who is the most NFL ready, which quarterback can come in, get the system, and make a deep playoff run. Before even crossing that bridge, they just don't have the assets to even move into that range to strike.
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, at that point,
so that's where I'm saying it's like you're already, your options are slim if you're the Jets and you think next season is your season, which they have stated. Now, if you don't accomplish that, what do you get? Do you go back in with Zach Wilson? Because it doesn't sound like anybody wants that.
Payroll. Yeah.
So, and again, it's not good. I'm not saying that the Packers are just fine because of that, but they are not forced to do anything here. I think the Jets have more urgency to do something just because, again, like what you're saying, your resources, they're starting to disappear. Your options are getting slimmer and slimmer, and after this draft, I think the Packers would prefer to have more resources for the next draft. I wouldn't be surprised if you get like a pick in this draft, like you're saying, maybe like a 4th round pick in this draft and like a 1st and a conditional pick in next year's draft, because what you need is the Packers need capital and resources next year in case the Jordan Love experiment goes wrong. Like if that doesn't work, hey, you have to consider that. Right?
Well, I mean, for you to be considering that, that's where I feel like that's interesting.
No. I'm talking as a GM.
You're very confident.
I'm not talking as a fan.
Future.
As a fan, I am.
Okay.
But as a GM, you have to think that way, right? Don't you? Don't you have to think like, all right, so worst case scenario is Jordan Love is not the guy at the end of this next season, isn't it?
So let me ask you this. If he was the guy, would you expect the rest of the NFL to think he was the guy?
No, there were plenty of people that didn't think Aaron Rodgers was the guy in 2008. There was just as many questions around him.
Okay, so would you expect coaches to know that he's your quarterback at least?
Are you talking about Andy Reid?
Yeah, I'm talking about Andy Reid, not even knowing who Jordan.
I just won a Super Bowl. I think his comment was not necessarily a dig at Jordan Love. It was more a dig at the reporter for like, why the fuck are you asking me this? Like what? What is this question?
You always
no, I don't care.
Bring this lens of, because I think we view things very differently. I just find,
of course, that's why we have a podcast.
I just find your perspective on everything Packer related, because we view it through different lenses, obviously, as a Bears fan, as a Packers fan, but it never ceases to amaze me. Well, but it's
not hard for me to see that lens. It's not hard for me to see everybody else's lens. Like, oh, Jordan Love, what a loser. The Super Bowl winning coach doesn't know your name. Fucking idiot. You must be a terrible quarterback. Yeah, I'm sure that's a great way of evaluating what this guy is going to do this season. No, like it's totally meaningless.
Yeah, but
completely total off-season BS.
But between,
nonsense.
hear me out. But
meaningless.
Between the two big waves of free agency and a month until draft night, I mean, that That's a cool story for Bears fans. I'll say that.
Oh, I mean, eat it up. That's
Yeah,
fine. That's fine. Speaking of, though, you still have your own civil war on your hands. First
our
of
Civil
all,
War's
Bears
team.
fans. Bears fans, hang on a second. If
Let's
you're gonna
go.
go off and you get a little fun to poke at Packers fans because their nerdy quarterback isn't known around the league, how on earth is there a population of Bears fans arguing that DJ Moore is not a receiver one?
Oh my goodness. Well,
Like, we got to clean up that side of the street right now. You like, I need to understand this group of people. We need to study them.
let's first explore the acquisition, right? So before anyone can argue if DJ Moore is a wide receiver one or if he would be a wide receiver one for the Chicago Bears and the unanimous number one target for Justin Fields, is, I think, a beautiful, beautiful gutsy trade. Trading from 1 to 9, which you and I, we
Oh yeah,
went
he
and
did a
we
great job.
beat every scenario, completely broke it down. And one of the ones that we had mentioned was, quarterback needy teams, and the Panthers being, one of them. That was what was surprising to me off the bat, was that the jump was from 1 to 9, knowing that the Panthers essentially leapfrogged the Colts and the Texans. And there have been reports that came out that they were teams that were in the conversation with Ryan Poles for a deal to be made there.
Oh, I'm sure there were lots of
Lots of
conversations. Yeah,
conversations that took place.
it's an
What
intriguing
tipped the
pitch.
scale, Miles, was DJ Moore, right? And so this is a
Had to be.
formula. This is a formula. This is calculated.
That was an excellent acquisition. A plus for that move. Excellent,
A
excellent
plus,
move.
Miles, and I think I am on record for being a strong advocate for Ryan Poles. This whole regime, Ian Cunningham, right, new CEO of the Bears, just complete overhaul of the front office of this team. But I will say this is this formula we have seen be a modern NFL formula for teams that you can say, quote unquote, have their guy, right? So this was done with Josh Allen, getting him Stephon Diggs. This was done with Jalen
Yep.
Hurts, getting him
Tyreek Hill.
who was it?
Yeah, Tyreek Hill.
No. That was Miami. He got AJ Brown.
Oh yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
Eagles.
yeah. Of
But
course. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
Tua, they went out and got him
You're right.
Tyreek, right?
Yep.
And so when you take into consideration, Miles, that, and again, receipts, right? Pull up episode whatever of this podcast where we went through every free agent wide receiver on the market for this season, and it was just anemic, right? And
Yep. Yep.
Jacoby Myers got his deal, Nelson Aguilar got his deal, receivers.
Alan Lazard got his
Alan
deal.
Lazard got his deal with the Jets, right?
Yeah.
But a boneyard, really, if we're going to call a spade, a boneyard, slim
Yeah,
pickings,
for sure.
right? Slim pickings.
Yeah,
So when
definitely.
you layer that on top of the move that was made to go out and get DJ Moore, which the Panthers had flat out said he will not be dealt, he is not going to be part of the
Yeah.
deal. For Ryan Poles to elbow, to just strong arm his way into getting DJ Moore for that number one spot, which
That was big.
it was big, man. It was big, and it happened right after the combine, because I know you and I were chatting right at the combine, right? So that, I think, was what made it special. Was getting the notification, seeing like, okay, the team. Oh, so we went back 8 spots. What's this going to consist of? Having some ideas of what it could look like. Not expecting DJ Moore to be a part of the deal, and
No, I would have called you crazy if you thought you were getting DJ Moore plus a top 10 pick, man. I would not have expected that. That's crazy.
So current state, Bears are drafting number 9. right? So, like you said, top
Yeah,
10, you're in that
that's still an excellent
blue
pick.
chip city right there,
Yeah.
sitting at number 9. But what I want to talk about before getting into DJ Moore is what the Bears have done as a foundation for this team next year. 2 first round picks, right? And one of them obviously belonging to the Panthers, right? It will be their picks that their first rounder that the Bears have the rights to. They are playing in the NFC South, right? And
Yep.
aren't necessarily aren't any sort of powerhouse team on either side of the ball. So that can
Nope.
potentially be right a top
It could be
10
a good
pick
pick.
next year too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a part I really like. So again, 2 first rounds next year. They're going to have 2 second round picks next year. Part of the deal overall, they're going to get a 25 second round pick as well. Um, and that kind of comes full circle to number 9, right? And what they can do there. I think there's lots of possibilities. But to
Man.
answer your question about DJ Moore, 100% a wide receiver one. You just
No
his
question.
numbers, right, dwarf what the Bears have been able to do
Yeah.
in recent
Yeah.
history. And then what I would say also is take into consideration that his rookie season, Cam Newton's arm was already spaghetti, right? Like, I mean, we've all watched and he's making a comeback. Supposedly, he was throwing at Auburn's pro day.
I'll root for
I'll
him.
root for him. Also, he's one of the quarterbacks that I always really enjoyed how he played the game. Um, but keep that in consideration. At that point, he was struggling with some sort of injury, and he wasn't really putting a whole lot of zip on the ball. So that was his rookie
Oh
season,
yeah.
and then he's just had a carousel there of average NFL quarterbacks, right? With the
At
Sam
best. Yeah. He
and
has not had a good
Arnold's,
situation.
PJ Walker, not anything to write home about. PJ Walker actually
Right.
signed with the Bears, so he's backing up Justin Fields now. But all that to say is this move, and before even getting there, Miles, the contract is so team friendly considering the wide receiver
Yeah.
market right now and what these guys are
Yeah.
getting. They're getting like 20 million north of that. And so he's on a team friendly deal. The Bears have control. Team has control for the next 2 years with that contract. So you talk about, like making a determination. Justin Fields is the guy. We're going to build around him. I believe that the investment, and I would say as a betting man, this is where I would say, Miles, remember this one. They're going to go offense with their first pick, um, only because the defense last year, and many times on this show, I said it was unwatchable. Unwatchable. They've invested heavily. That's been one of the critiques of the offseason is how heavily they've invested on non-premium positions, right? And that's relative. You can argue which positions are premium or not, but they invested a lot of money at the linebacker positions, right? With Tremaine Edwards or TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, which is going to be
Mhm.
that's going to be fun saying all next year, right? Those two names are similar, but with that number 9 pick, I think with what you've communicated so far of, okay, Justin's obviously the guy, because if not, you could have stayed at number 1 and gotten a guy, right? A
No,
franchise
Justin's
guy.
the guy. Yeah,
Justin's the
for
guy.
sure.
Let's just, that'll be foundational for this next part. Then you invest heavily with trading out of that number 1 spot. So DJ Moore, now you're saying, okay, this is your guy. This is your wide receiver 1. At this point, I think
Yep.
you just continue to build on that side of the ball. This with this draft, right? Build on this side of the ball. Bring in this order, right? Offensive tackle, that number 9 position, and this is considering that you're not trading down. Offensive tackle, best player available, right? Would be in this range would be like a Paris Johnson, Ohio State,
Hopefully an OSU guy. Yeah.
Oronsky, Northwestern,
Yep.
John Robinson, running back out of Texas, And then also you
Whew,
have
that high?
JSN. I think so. I think he's going to be a top 10 potential pick. Here's why I say offense, though, is because at that point, you're really committing to building around Justin. I mean, you're all chips are on the table, and you're going to put more firepower around him with an explosive. I think Robinson's just going to be a touchdown machine in the league.
Yeah,
I think that's
he's
going
a
to
home
help.
run,
That's going
man.
to help your quarterback, right? That's just going to help your quarterback.
Yeah.
And then obviously the JSN connection. When I say firepower, I'm talking those guys. When I'm talking about protecting your franchise, is either of those Big Ten tackles or offensive linemen that I mentioned.
That's where I think they'd go, and kind of what you're saying. They're communicating that they're building around Justin, but I think between the trade for Claypool, because he's still there, right? That's probably between him and Mooney, you've got a receiver two and 2A and 2B essentially. So you don't need to draft a fourth receiver with that premier pick. And something that I think polls kind of signaled to the rest of the league is he believes that there's at least 9 premier players in this draft, right? He probably didn't want to go. Maybe he believes there's 12, right? But essentially, and we've heard GMs talk about this after the draft, usually when they're getting interviewed, they'll talk, and Gute has said stuff like this. Well, we saw, X number of guys left on the board that we had a first round grade on. Well, when you're looking in that position where you're trading out of the first spot to a top 10 spot, still you're not talking about a first round grade, you're talking about like you're
Top
saying,
10.
blue chip premier players. So there's a threshold there that you're not willing to go beyond, right? Like if you're looking for those guys that, like you're saying, are this is a guy that we have to build around, a tackle or somebody who commits to Justin Fields. I think that that's where you're going. You have to protect his blind spot. His the line is so important in the NFL. That's been true forever. And this is where I think that I disagree with you. I think if there's not a tackle available, you have to go defense because of how bad it was. Like you got to start building that shit, man. Like you
Yeah,
need help at every position.
I had this conversation, very in depth conversation with one of my buddies who's a huge, would argue, on par with me as far as just Bear fandom, and he was ready to die on the hill of you need to draft defense first here, or I think the argument was front seven, right? Like defensive line essentially,
Right.
or front four in this case. But we disagreed. And one argument that he did make that I really did see eye to eye on, I can say, is he mentioned that this draft is pretty loaded with both offensive and defensive linemen. So that's why and this is me being greedy, Miles. We said it before we hopped on. We're not breaking any NFL news. It's not our type of podcast.
Right.
We're
Yeah.
not, we're fans, right? So this is me being greedy as a
Hell
fan.
yeah, man.
I want a JSN or a
Of course.
Robinson in with that number 9 pick, because I do feel like with and again, this is taking what I have seen, and I have seen in just one draft, which is really hard to measure and even analyze or rate. But I think that there was some success with Braxton Jones in the 5th round, right? And so that
Right.
tells me is, maybe you're not going to get the, the name in the headlines, or I should say the bright lights of draft night with that, top 10 pick, but maybe you're going to get a mauler, right? Like in the second, third. I mean, keep in mind they have 4 picks in the top 64.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at that point, that's why I'm saying go for the fences, go for the jugular, go get the JSN. Then your wide receiver room goes from just an absolute joke to just being no defensive coordinator is going to want to scheme and go into a game week and scheme for DJ Moore, JSN, Chase Claypool, and Darnell Mooney, right? Like, I mean, at that point, you know, and I mean, that's what I'm saying. Go for it.
I think it just kind of depends on how your GM is looking at it. And, you know, you can see how different GMs have approached things differently over the years. So
Yeah,
it definitely
small
factors
sample
in, like,
size.
what do these guys prioritize? Well, for sure, small sample size. But again, I think that what we talked about before is really holding true. Poles started this offseason in the middle of the season. When he made that trade,
Yeah,
you know, for Roquan
you could
Smith, and
argue
when he made
before
the trade
that.
for Claypool,
You could argue before that
yeah,
because he was trading. He was trading. He traded Khalil Mack. At that point,
right,
I mean, that's months before the trade deadline, where you could already tell that
right.
he was making moves for this offseason and beyond.
And I think that you could see he was like, oh man, that free agent pool of receivers, not much there.
Nothing.
And so, you know, the move for Claypool makes sense. And, you know, everybody's, oh, he didn't do anything once they traded for him. Of course not. They knew last season was a throwaway season. Don't trade for an asset
Is
and
it
then get him
hard to be a
hurt.
wide receiver and just switch NFL clubs in the middle of the season, pick up a whole playbook, and then dominate and be effective? I mean, like, isn't that one of the hardest positions to come in and like just plug and play, like from a Thursday to a
I,
Sunday?
it definitely isn't easy. I think it would depend on how similar the offenses are. You know, like if you're going from,
Tomlin
you know,
and
just to kind
Eberflus. I mean, Getsy and who's Tomlin's offensive coordinator? I mean, this is he was at Pittsburgh.
Tomlin's not. I mean, that offense is pretty traditional. Like, and I don't think it's not like a West Coast offense, but it is kind of like this, like run and gun. You know, rely on your running back to keep the defense honest, and then pop them over the top with some good receivers.
Yeah,
But
they got Najee Harris out there.
they've been consistent with that, you know, and over the years. So I don't know that their offense is overly complex. I don't think anybody's really accused, you know, not like, you know,
Well,
Shanahan's offense. I think if you're going from like Pittsburgh to San Francisco would probably be pretty tough.
yeah,
But also being in the first year of that offense last year, everybody's kind of on that first page. So you don't have like advanced, you know, kind
let's
of
call it his redshirt
customized
year.
concepts.
I mean,
Yeah, I think
like,
that's what it was. I mean, don't risk injury. Let the guy learn the playbook. You're not making the playoffs. I mean, that's really where we drew the line. Like for a GM, if you're not making the playoffs, your offseason has started. And so that's
yeah,
where, again, like here we are now at this point in the offseason. You've got your top three receivers. There's no question about it. There's no receiver that you're going to take in this draft that's going to be anything more than receiver four this year. It's just not. You're not going to surpass, short of an injury, let's say that. But that's where I think if you're polls, you have to think of this as an opportunity to gain another premier player, and that's where it totally comes down to what's on his board. Like, who are the top guys on his
yeah,
board? Is Robinson even in his top 10? Maybe he's not even. Maybe he's in his top 20.
yeah,
That I think is a huge. That's going to vary a lot, and GMs do, right? Like GMs, some guys probably have Robinson as a top 5 guy, you know, and others have him as a top 20 guy. So I don't know. We don't, like you're saying, small sample size with polls, but I really do think that he's probably got the firepower he wants, and now he wants to stack the trenches. But hey, we got receipts. We'll find out, man. We'll
yeah.
definitely get to find out a
Well,
month away.
before moving on, the wide receiver conversation is, I think, it is an indictment on the lack of, I guess you can call it talent in that free agent pool this season. That Ryan Poles
Mm-hmm.
made two huge, and we're huge
Right.
with draft capital implications, right? Huge moves and trades to go and acquire wide receivers. And I will say this, because I know obviously I'm a big advocate of Ryan Poles. The number one critique has been that gap, right, of drafting from one. First, it was the top spot. Now they're in the ninth spot, and then the next pick is in number 53, I think, because he traded that second round pick for Chase Claypool, which is high,
Right.
right? It would be the
Right.
33rd pick.
Right.
So, what what I view is that is your second round pick. Chase Claypool is your
Hmm.
30. If he's in the draft, you're picking him at 32, 33. If he's there,
Oh yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. And so that's why I am being patient, because I wouldn't be surprised if we were talking about this. Is there someone there that you take at number one, right? And you and I couldn't even come to a consensus. So I would ask the
Well,
same
and that's
question
why
at
I don't
number
think there's a
nine.
big difference.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
At number
No.
nine, can you make a case for any of those names that you have to pull the trigger there? Maybe I would say PJJ out of Ohio State at that tackle position. You get your franchise left tackle, protect the blind side. But if there's no guarantees in that draft, what if he's not there at nine? Right? Then I
Well, and
say
that's
you
where
go back.
I think that's why I think that's specifically why Poles traded to 9, or he probably had a line he wasn't willing to go beyond, because if you look at it, and this is exactly what we were talking about. If you're in that one spot, there's not really that consensus guy, especially because you're not going after a quarterback. But there's also not that left tackle that you have to take first overall, that Joe Thomas type guy. There's PJJ, he's good, but if you're willing to take him, like if you think he'll be there at 9, do you want to take him at 1 when you could get him at 9? And I think that's what he's looking at. If there's 10 guys on the board right now that, whether he's at 1 or 9, he would take those guys. So if you can move back to 9 and still get one of those same guys that you would have taken at 1 anyway, then that's the sweet spot. I mean, he cashed in being able to do that. So I think that he's sitting there saying, whether it's the tackle, whether it's the DB, what's his name out of Illinois, who looks like a top 10
Witherspoon.
DB. Yeah, he looks legit.
Yeah. And that's what I'm
You
saying.
know,
Small sample size. Keep in mind what he did last year. When you talk about fandom Twitter, Bears Twitter was pounding on the tables for wide receiver, right? Hey, we don't have a first
yeah,
round pick, but we were looking at every wide receiver, and that's even Christian Watson, right?
yeah,
Like
man,
Bears fans were
absolutely.
betting betting their bottom dollar on it being a wide receiver. What does Poles, first year GM, do? He goes secondary, back
Yeah,
to back, right? And
yeah,
we had these questions last year around this time was, hey, is Justin Fields the guy in his eyes, in Ryan Poles' eyes? Is he the guy? Comes out, makes those two moves. We don't know what he's going to do at number nine. Does he go get Witherspoon? Does he get Tyree
well, and
Willis?
that's
Right?
is
Like,
Witherspoon. Is he better than DB4?
oh, on the board? Or what
No, with the Bears. If the Bears draft him, is he better than DB4? Is he playing
if he
what?
comes in,
Is he your second corner?
he's your probably fighting for your number one spot with Jalen Johnson, and then
Yeah.
Kyler Gordon
So
plays the
there's a lot
slot
more value.
or
There's a
the
lot more
yeah
value there on that pick versus a
nickel.
receiver
Sorry,
4, like a certain receiver 4, right?
sorry. I was thinking about what position Kyler Gordon would be sliding into.
No, no,
What
no,
position?
no.
And
It's
I
good.
missed what you said. What'd you say?
But like a Witherspoon coming in, if you can get him at 9 versus a JSN at 9, say, Witherspoon fighting for your top CB spot, certainly your top 2. I think a GM has to go with that guy versus a certain receiver 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, there's hard tangibles and there's soft tangibles, and obviously the hard ones being all the metrics from their scouting, combine, their pro days, like all these measurables. But with JSN, I think some of the soft intangibles would be like the chemistry that he has with Justin Fields has come out at the combine and said, I would love to be Justin's wide
Of
receiver, right? So it's
course.
like, is he number 4 on your depth chart in rookie mini camp and in I was going to say spring training, but in training camp, he would more than likely rise up that depth chart just because of the chemistry that he has with Justin, and Justin probably just feeding him the ball, which you have to account for what happened with the Bengals, what was Joey Burrow, right? And when he got his college teammate, what happened? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
just dynamic duo, right?
Yeah, we
So
talked about
so
that.
so that's why, I mean, I wouldn't just look at it like a wide receiver 4 versus a CB uh, training camp battle, position battle. I would look at it more as how can you support, or how can you just put Justin in a position where he's just devastating to the rest of the league, right? And I don't think Witherspoon
Well, I mean, you
puts.
might have already done that,
I think I think
to
I
be fair.
think so. Miles, you know this, right? Like when you are going in, you go for, you like to be dominant, you have to go for the jugular. You have to not
Yeah.
just like be able to beat teams. You have to be able to like go and just beat up some teams, right? And I'm talking about you're scoring more than 30, 40 points a game. And this isn't, I don't want people to freak out. Last year, you and I talked about it. There was a 5-week period where the Bears were over 30 points. My lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen that, right? So like when I'm
But that's
saying
what
like
I'm talking about.
jugular,
Like, I think you might have already gone for the jugular here, man. And that's
you
where,
think
like
so?
you got to, yeah,
You
absolutely. Well,
think
listen,
so?
listen. You have to look at what happened last. I mean, Justin Fields is an excellent runner, and that has to factor in. Like, teams will play that now. And you've now given him 3 legitimate weapons right out of the gate. Not even to mention like what might be available there in the second round. Like, just because you don't get a JSN in the first round doesn't mean that you're not going to get a receiver who could be part of the future there. In the early first few rounds. So I think that you have to look at it more like what can you do with the rest of this roster to complement what you've got going on there with Justin Fields, because you've got some firepower now that you didn't have. I mean, DJ Moore is one of the best weapons in the league, I would say. I mean, the guy he's been excellent with bad quarterback play. And you can watch him, and he's scary. You're like, damn, how are you gonna stop that guy? So you've given Justin Fields, who's electric on his own, an electric weapon alongside 2 other electric weapons. I mean, Chase Clayfield stretches the field, or Claypool stretches the field for sure vertically, and Mooney is going to occupy the center of the field for sure. Like, you can't leave any one of those guys and just assume, some slappy is going to cover them. So when you've got a legitimate 3 deep, not again. You got your tight end position, not bad. Like, you've got a couple of legit tight ends too, so you don't even need that next level. It is tempting, in my opinion,
Former
that the
Packer
chemistry that you're talking about, huh?
Robert
Oh yeah,
Robert
Tanya, man,
Tanyan.
that was kind of a surprising move to me after Rodgers was trying to claim him in New York, but I kind of give him props for just going off and going to play for the Bears instead of going off and teaming up with Rodgers. But
Yeah.
no, I mean, like, you've got a solid room there of offensive weapons. So I think that, again, and like, I'm not rooting for the Bears. I'd love for you guys to totally whiff on your first round pick. That'd be great. But you've got yourself set up, and Poles has done an undeniably good job of stacking assets. You got to start rounding out the team. You've got the ability to do it right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think last piece here on the philosophy is when you're signaling that you're all in, right? And the signal was, so people follow at home, the signal's trading out a number 1, right? When you trade out a number 1,
Yeah,
you're signaling to everybody that Justin Fields is your franchise quarterback.
for
Once you
sure.
do that, that's why I say don't be surprised if and when that number and I shouldn't say number 1, I should say the first pick of the Bears is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. I say that because
Offensive
I
tackle.
see what you're saying with rounding out the team, but and this is no bias, right? Do you think the Bears are winning the Super Bowl next year?
No.
No, 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 they're
No.
not. Right? I think they're going to be fun, exciting
Not
team,
with that defense, man.
fun, exciting
The
team.
offense will be electric.
But
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is fun, exciting team. They're not where the roster's at today. Granted, there's a lot of additions that are coming,
Yeah.
and a lot of roster moves on top of that. Where the roster's at today, this team isn't contending, right? So that's why I say go and just absolutely solidify being dangerous wherever it is with Justin, whether it's protecting him so he has the time to get the ball to those weapons that you've surrounded with him with the Robert Tunyons, the additions, right? The Robert Tunyons, the DJ Moores, Nate Davis, right? You're protecting him there with one of the better guards in the NFL coming out of Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
I say, knowing that you still have next, and keep in mind, they still have the most free agency, or I should say, cap space in the NFL. They still have the most money out of any club.
Yeah. I think a lot of free agent moves are going to happen after the draft. I mean, the draft is unpredictable. You have to see what falls to you, and then free agency, you can go target things. So
Exactly.
I would expect more of, and I know that there's probably some unsettled Bears fans that are like, we've got all this money, what are we not doing? But you really do need to see what the draft gives you, because then you can go and intentionally fill holes.
I agree. I agree
Yeah,
100%. And what I'm saying with and this is why I mentioned what next year offseason looks like for the Bears, at least in draft capital. 2 ones,
right.
potentially a top 10 one next year, 2 twos, right? Plus all your other draft picks is build the defense then, right? Like you're going to compete this year just with the moves you've already made. Obviously, you might get one of those cheap vets that could play the three technique and be one of those just stopgap type 1 year deals, right? Once we get closer to
Mm-hmm.
training camp. But what I'm talking about is, you're not going to compete to contend. You're just going to be fun. And just like last year, I said, they're going to play sound football, be disciplined, play good football. They
Wild
did
card
that. I'm
run.
calling that again, right? To Eberflus coach team. They're going to play football the right way. Not a lot of mental errors, hopefully, right? And that's they were being kept in games by Justin Fields last year with an anemic defense, with no defense. So the defense is better
Yeah.
this year. Again, you can still plug it up where you need. I think you just have to just completely go in on Justin now, and that means going offense with that number 9 or first round pick.
Yeah, and again, to reiterate, I did say I think it'll be offensive tackle before a defensive player, but I do think it will be a defensive player before an offensive weapon.
Yeah.
So we'll find out, man. But I'm excited. I love the draft. The
Oh,
draft is so much fun, man. It's fun to
it really
watch. It's
is.
fun to just like play along
Kansas
with.
City.
Just what's gonna happen. You just never know.
Kansas City.
Kansas City, great place to host. Shout out to all the hooligans out there in Kansas City that know how to party in the Power and Light District. Yeah, man, it's fun. I love the draft, so I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm excited to see what happens. Even if Rodgers doesn't get traded and all this stuff just like spills out into the rest of the offseason, it'll be fun to see what they do with 15. I think there's plenty of players in this draft that the Packers can upgrade with, but we all know where I've been at for 2 years now. All right, I have been watching this guy down the road from me, and the answer is QJ no matter what. And that is a draft day reference. We wrote it down. We're going to go through all these ups and downs about JSN and all these other players and all these guys. It's going to be QJ no matter what at the end. That's who we're getting.
Man, that
I'm
wide
gonna
receiver
die on
room.
that hill.
Then I think you're taking a little bit of my philosophy, Miles. Is just
But see, we've got a decent defense in place where we have talent. our defensive coordinator leaves some things to be desired. But anyway, we won't get into that rabbit hole on this episode. There's plenty of offseason for that. But there's a lot of talent on the defensive side of the Packers, so I don't think it's a huge priority for them to go off and draft a defensive player in the first round. I don't know that there is one that's a big priority. I think this is one of those drafts that really plays into their hand of best overall. They've been annoying sometimes sticking to that, drafting players that some people don't understand, like a quarterback. But it tends to work out. And so I'm excited to see what happens. But QJ, no matter what, is what I want. I want to see Quentin Johnson next to Christian Watson with Romeo Doubs. Dude, that is the beginning of the next generation of this Packers offense right there. We still got Aaron Jones. We still got A.J. Dillon. I'm excited.
I think you're drafting a quarterback.
Fuck you.
I think you're drafting a quarterback. But, hey, we don't want to derail that train.
Not in the first
QJ,
round.
no matter what.
They like a fifth round quarterback.
I'll be happy for you, Miles, but I won't be happy for you because I don't want to see QJ in the division. But what else is on your offseason wish list?
Oh, man, we got to get 12 out of here. We've already made that clear, right? He's got to go.
Yeah.
We would like him to go, but whether he gets traded or retires, he's just got to go. I want him to get traded. Now, let's talk compensation. We don't have to get deep into this. This doesn't have to be a thing where it's like you have to get 3 first rounders. You have to get at least what they got for Stafford. None of that. I think the price changes every offseason, like we said before. I think what you need to get is you need to get a player this year. You need like a second round pick in this draft or a Corey Davis or something like that. You need a player this year for Aaron Rodgers, somebody that's going to contribute to this next roster. Then I think that's where the negotiating should be taking place. It's a 1-for-1 this year, player for player. And you put something in there conditional, like for Rodgers' performance, if they make the playoffs, if they make the Super Bowl, whatever it is, you give the potential for a first rounder next year. And then you have another pick that's conditional on him playing again in the next year. So if Rodgers plays for 2 more seasons, then you're going to get another pick than you would if he only plays next season. I think that's what has to happen. It has to be a lot of conditional things in order for the deal to be right. But the thing is that I think... hey, if he doesn't play and he doesn't perform, you don't pay much for him. You pay a second round pick or a player that you didn't want. And here's really where I'd stick if I'm Gute and I'm the one negotiating this thing. If Aaron Rodgers is the guy that you believe is going to get you to a Super Bowl and he's a Hall of Fame 4-time MVP Super Bowl winning quarterback, he's worth premier compensation. Like you can't tell me this guy's an all-time great on one hand and then say, yeah, but he's only worth like a 4th round pick on the other. Like
it's the market. It doesn't matter.
How much is a Super Bowl worth to you? That would be my question. If I'm Gute, like, look, a 4th round pick, I'll just let the guy retire. I'd rather keep him out of the league. I'd rather not have to play against him at some point than get a 4th round pick.
Yeah.
I am kind of rooting for petty outcomes here. Let's not get this wrong. I would love the ultimate pettiness to happen. I think that would be hilarious.
I don't think there's going to be a player from the Jets side of the ball that's coming over to Green Bay. Certainly not Corey Davis, but I would say if there is, it's Zach Wilson. You're going to get Zach Wilson. They're 2 this year. And their 2 next year being conditional 1, obviously. Oh. And I think that Green Bay needs to throw a little draft capital in there just for that insurance. Like you said, a conditional.
Here's the draft capital that we'll give them. You'll get every 3rd round pick for the next 3 years that the Packers have. You can have all.
I want to negotiate with you, Miles.
Sure.
Every third round pick for the next 3 years.
Third round picks in Green Bay. You guys go look it up. They're useless. They're totally worthless. Every last freaking one of them has been worthless since like 2008. We haven't had a good 3rd round pick in years. So get rid of them. Get them. I don't ever want the Packers to pick in the 3rd round again. Nice. So yeah, That's fine.
OGR
We'll send you
exclusive right
Aaron
there.
Rodgers. We'll give yeah, exactly. We'll give you Aaron Rodgers and every third round pick for every season that he plays. So we'll give you this year's third round pick. We'll give you next year's third round pick, and if he plays again, you'll get another third
Yeah.
round pick. And there you go. But we also, like you're saying, we get a couple first round picks in that scenario. One next year, maybe one conditional. You just got to see how that plays out. But I think what it has to be this year is player for player. You got to get a player in for a player out. Whether that happens as a pick or an actual player. I've heard Corey Davis is not like a good fit there. Like they don't really like him. I don't know if I really want Corey Davis. I think he had a lot more promise than he's shown. He's been okay.
Right.
He was like a top 10 pick though, wasn't he? Like he definitely didn't live up to the bill.
No, I never said that he's playing up to what people had his career unfolding, but Corey.
Yes, I don't know. I don't know if you want
Tennessee,
that piece,
right? Before New York.
Mm-hmm.
I think that,
and he just never really became a receiver one.
Yeah, he's but he. I mean, if he's being brought in to be a role player, I think they don't role players. You want the Corey Davises of the world.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, like again, I think that would be a fair part of the deal. And yeah, I mean, if you have to balance it out by realistically sending draft capital over, I think that's reasonable. Really, again, I don't know what to expect from Gute here. I mean, he was a pretty good negotiator in that first draft when he traded his pick to New Orleans, which they used to draft Marcus Davenport, and he got 2 first-round picks out of that. Which turned into Jair Alexander and Darnell Savage. So, he's not a bad negotiator. He's done pretty well. He's turned other players that got cut into picks. So he's done pretty well from that front. I think he'll get something for him. I think it really is going to come down to how urgent it is for the Jets. But, let's be honest. This is playing out exactly the way Rodgers wants it to, man. He wants this trade to happen right before training camp so he can be off on his own with no obligation all offseason and then pop in and be the hero when he shows up day one of training camp. Yeah. Like that's how he wants it to play out. So that's probably how it'll play out.
Well, I mean, we're about a month out from, almost to the day. About a month out from draft night, or I should say draft weekend. And then you have rookie mini camp right after that. And then next thing you know, you have OTAs. So, I mean,
it happens quick, man.
Yeah, it's quick. It's coming quick.
It's quick. No, I'm excited. I think, and then the end of my wish list here is acquire D-Hop.
Yeah.
I want to see that happen.
So just use New York's too. Although I think it already came out that they've set the market for D-Hop at 3 or 4.
Like I said, get those fucking 3 picks out of here. Get them out. Get them out. They're worthless. They are worthless.
Give the people what they want.
Leave.
What kind of scenarios you want? We'll run through them. Well, I'll give you my quick one because I think D-Hop is definitely an interesting name to keep an eye on. My offseason wish list is very simple. It's Robbie Gould. Just go get Gould. Plus, Cairo Santos, he has to vacate that number 2 jersey, so we'll give that to DJ Moore. And Robbie Gould can potentially wear number 0 now that it's an authorized number. So you heard it here first. Robbie Gould 0, and DJ Moore.
The triumphant return.
Why not?
Triumphant return indeed.
Why not?
Give the people what they want.
I also, hot take. If you're listening right now, this is hot take city. I think that the Bears are drafting a kicker this year. I truly think so.
Oh no. Yeah. Is there a draft-worthy kicker out there?
There's always one, right? There's always like some ridiculous made field goal percentage out there in the NCAA that usually has a really strong pro day in camp that will. Sometimes they'll go in like the 4th round. Miles, don't sleep on the kickers now.
Yeah, I think Mason Crosby was either a 5th or a 6th round pick
Yeah,
when the Packers drafted him, and it sounds like he's not going to be back this year. So that'll be a sad ending to that era. I guess not a sad ending. I mean, he's here for a long time.
yeah.
He had a good career. He's the all-time scorer for the Packers. Not a sad ending at all. I take that
Cairo
back.
missed a lot last year. He, we'll give him his flowers because thankfully the tank was in, and he may have helped out with that with how many he missed last year. But like I said, when you want to make them count with this offense, those points on the board, help your quarterback.
Oh yeah, you need those. So all right, hot take, taking a kicker. I'll take a hot take and say that the Packers do indeed draft a quarterback, but it'll be on in like the 7th round.
Lazy take. The
Lazy, come
Bears
on.
side of the OGR podcast predicted that. Just so you know.
Speaking of lazy takes, anybody that says the Packers have no leverage, it's a lazy take. Get out
I
of
said
here.
that.
They have a contract in place. It's a lazy
It's a
take. It's out of here.
divorce.
I've laid. Get out of
It's a
here. Get out of here.
divorce. It's messy.
It's lazy.
It's
They
messy.
have leverage.
Let
They absolutely
let the
have
lawyers
leverage.
fight it out. It's a
All right, they will.
they're not even picking up
We'll
each
split
other's
the.
phone calls. Oh jeez.
Gute said, I got to do my job.
Yeah.
Did I not say? I said that's what had to happen this offseason, dude. I said the GM needs to take his damn job back, and he did.
Yeah.
So I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, we'll see how it plays out. The way that our podcast has played out is we've always recorded the night before, like, the next big news happens, making our podcast so much less relevant.
Yes.
So we'll probably
Every
wake
time.
up to a trade. Yeah, man. It was like the night before Brady retired, we did a podcast. And there was another one that was like the night before something. And it's like, damn it. Like, we keep missing these
Yeah.
things.
Or we just speak it into existence.
Maybe that's what it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, man. So here we are. I see here you have Hard Knocks on there. Are the Bears up to be on Hard
They're
Knocks?
not. They are part of 4 NFL teams that meet the criteria that can be forced to do the show. Don't take this as gospel. I'm going off the top of my head here, obviously, but I believe the criteria is that they did not make the playoffs, that they have a NFL head coach that's not in his first year, so at minimum 2 years. So Matt Eberflus meets that criteria, and also that they have never been on Hard Knocks before. So the Bears meet all 3 of those criteria, so they may potentially be on it. Today, George McCaskey at the owners' meetings went on record saying that he doesn't want to be on Hard Knocks. He doesn't want to be the franchise that's selected for Hard Knocks. I think it did a lot of good for Detroit last season in really marketing their new philosophy, their new football culture, locker room culture to free agents. I think that
Yeah,
Hard Knocks does serve that purpose. It's a show that obviously is popular amongst the players also, and so I think
for
that
sure.
the Bears would actually do themselves a favor by agreeing to the Hard Knocks selection if it does happen. They have state of the art facilities. One thing that you cannot take away from Ryan Pace was he invested heavily into Hallis Hall with the practice facilities, the weight rooms, the recovery centers. All that is all state of the art, right? So all of that, where is Hard Knocks filmed? At training camp. So all of this would be
Yep.
broadcasted across the league. Obviously, that would be special for fans as well. But I think that'd be interesting. And then obviously get to see how that chemistry unfolds with this new team.
The Packers meet that criteria.
Didn't make the playoffs last year. Second
No,
year head coach, or more, not first year head coach, and then haven't been on Hard Knocks.
that's right.
Interesting. I think there's only like
First year
I think there's only
quarterback
4
replacing
teams.
a Hall of Famer.
They've never done
I'd
Hard
like to know
Knocks.
who the others are because I could see them pushing the Packers to do it with the whole Jordan Love situation. That'd be interesting.
Okay, so I'm looking this one up. Okay, so here's the criteria for Hard Knocks. You'd have to miss the playoffs for the past 2 seasons. So that's where I was wrong.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All
Yep.
right. Never mind. We're out.
Yep.
Good.
Because they
I don't want to be on Hard
oh,
Knocks.
Robbie Gould knocked them out last year, 2 years ago. So that's why you don't meet the criteria. Sorry, Miles. No Jordan Love. Andy Reid won't be able
Oh,
to tune
good.
in to find out who the young man is on
That's all
HBO
right. He'll just
on
have to lose
Sunday
to him.
nights.
He'll find out who he is then.
I think we are playing the AFC West this year, right? The NFC North.
We need to do like a schedule breakdown episode
Yeah.
because I haven't even
Well,
really looked at the schedule
the
for next
opponents have
season.
been released, and I think the designation
Right.
of away and home games have been released, but that NFL schedule hasn't been released. But with that owners meeting, what has come out is that teams can now play 2 Thursday night football games, where before it was 1 per team per
I
year
don't like that.
per season. So now they can play 2. The reason being is the flex option for the NFL to flex games into that prime time slot to get obviously the money from the ratings from those games. But again, there's the argument is that it's very tone deaf to player safety, which
It's
they
super
claim to
tone
be
deaf.
very high and mighty when it comes to that. But yeah, just a couple
That
little
sucks.
nuggets for our listeners there.
Don't like that.
Yeah.
Boo to the NFL on that one. Thumbs down.
One
Don't like
more
that.
nugget. Ted Phillips, CEO of the Bears, steps down April 14th. Will be a bit of a golden parachute though, because he will stay on payroll as a consultant. So
Of
Miles,
course.
we're getting we're getting the blueprint to how to retire. Right? You
Oh
just
man, yeah,
stay
we
on
need
payroll
to
as a
get that
consultant.
consultant role slapped
Yeah.
on us, man. We're gonna be consultants. That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
We'll consult you on how to start a second-rate podcast.
Hey, we're the People's Podcast. The People's Podcast.
That's just what Minnesota fans think.
Yeah, but speaking of podcasts, we are the People's Podcast, and we're being brought to them by the People's Remedy.
LifeLeafRemedies.com. My shirt's kind of beat up, but that's because it's been used a lot and washed a lot. So yes, LifeLeafRemedies.com. Check us out today, y'all. We want y'all to feel better today. We've got all sorts of natural remedies for sleep, for immune support, for other things that you're looking for relief for in your life. And rumor has it this year we're coming out with a little bit of a beverage, maybe some type of an energy or a focus beverage. We don't know. We're still in the lab on this one, so hang with us to find out. But it is going to be exciting, and that's what we're working on. We're trying to create natural remedies that help y'all feel better today, and they don't have side effects, but they work. So, check us out, see what we got to offer, see if there's anything you like, anything we can do to help you sleep better, feel better, live better. That's what we're all about, y'all. So check us out at LifeLeafRemedies.com. And do us another solid that doesn't take very much time or cost you anything. What could that be, sir?
Yeah, if you are one of the OGs out there and you enjoy this podcast, please don't forget to spike that like button, leave us a comment, subscribe, and talk about us at your next tailgate. And Miles, how come it's not we want you to feel better tonight? Because I'm going to feel better tonight.
See, I need to get the sticker. It would actually be sleep better tonight.
Ooh.
That's what I'm going to go with.
Okay. All right.
Put it on the back of the shirt too, maybe.
I'll send you an invoice for the marketing there.
A consultation fee.
The consultation. But yeah, we appreciate all you OGs out there. I'll sign off with a
much love, much appreciation, and go Pack, go.